Alright. Stuff you've been watching, I've been playing Arkham Horror, and in a sense I gave a lot of my opinions in the introduction, because I've played this a little bit. I tend to do that, but it was fresh in my mind. I had, I don't think it was terrible criticism, but a definite feeling that I'm not really too thrilled with this game. And now, if you've been watching these playthroughs, you might be saying, I'm sure his views completely changed, because he seemed so interested, so excited, into the story maybe. But the truth is I wasn't. The truth is, yes, there was an interesting tale to tell. It was humorous, but, and the game itself showed this remarkable on the edge of your seat with the 4 players that I hadn't seen. And these things, that definitely has improved my view of it. The 2-player game had me convinced, damn, this game is just too tough. You know, here, yeah, I lost, and maybe the majority of games are losses, but it feels like there's a fair chance. It felt like a little bit more luck, I could have gotten away with a victory. So that improved my view a bit. I didn't think something as hopeless as the 2-player game was definitely was a detraction against it. But when I look at it, I still say this is not a game that's going to draw me into the story. The biggest thing about it, and you could say, oh, you were into it. No. I was into telling the story, okay? There's a difference, though. I wasn't experiencing it. It wasn't like a role-playing game. What else is there to this game? Well, it's an interesting puzzle game. I'm not a big fan of puzzles. I don't really... It's something that I don't think I'm going to really like about most of the co-op games. For some reason, Pandemic pleased me in a way that this simply does not. But I think if you're capable of enjoying that puzzle side of things a little bit more than I am, if you're in the right group, I can remember, my buddy and I playing Republic of Rome in that sort of puzzle kind of way, constantly cutting deals on how to fix things, really both fully engaged, which is something I didn't feel in either the 2-player or the solitaire game in the same way. A real grip on how to handle things and a good argument for why to do things in a certain way or whatever. I think I could take some enjoyment in that, no question. But, again, the story does not touch me in the same way as most of the games that you'll see me playing. Whether they're the economic rail games or tactical military games or big strategic military games. The story hits me kind of in the same way that operational military games do, actually, where it's just falling a little short for me. I want more of that, and I'm not getting that from this board game representation of this the whole Cthulhu horror element. And that's just not, that may just be me. Anyhow, having played it and seen that the balance issues I was worried about go away as you gain more players, I think I'm going to push my rating up. It was torn between a 5 and a 6 before. I had chosen the lower end, now I'm going up to the higher end. The game I most think that's sort of resembles in a lot of ways, coming down to, just the physical components, drawing all these cards, the board with the big text that you have to read and be familiar with and everything, is actually Talisman, and I think I've pushed that forward. However, this as a game is infinitely more interesting than Talisman. That doesn't mean I rate it significantly higher. I think I've rated Talisman around a 5. It may have dipped down to a 4 at some point, I don't know. But Talisman is just this kind of pointless, I'm rolling dice and moving around the board. This, you're really trying to deal with a specific goal, and you can bring your mind to bear on it and deal with that goal. In Talisman, I feel like if you play it that seriously, you're actually detracting from whatever enjoyment there is to the game, which is that it's very, very light. But that's where this kind of loses me a little bit, is it's a little too serious. To have a good chance at winning, you do really have to kind of manage those risks, think about it a little harder. And it's this trade-off, you know? I mean, I think it's a much better game for those things, but it's also more effort. And if I'm going to pull out something that kind of reminds me of Talisman, maybe I don't want to deal with that much of it. There's a significant amount of setup work in this, just as there is with Talisman. There's a lot of fiddling with different decks and everything. The reshuffle mechanism on the Arkham Adventure cards, all the stuff you have to keep track of is actually much worse than Talisman. In Talisman, usually you only kind of have to deal with what you're dealing with at the moment. You don't have to worry about all these events taking place that are having effects across the whole board, most of the time. And when they do, they're significantly odd, that they kind of stick in your mind a little more, I think. I can see the appeal to this game more, certainly as a puzzle game by a great deal, but because now I see, hey, it's not just a complete blowout where you have almost no chance. I think there is a fair chance when you have the right number of players. However, I have real difficulty, and there's almost this snobbishness to it with me. You know, when I think about things like the old Hero Quest, I think that was at Games Workshop, where you wandered around the dungeon and killed things, or Talisman, or this, of kind of the, they're missing so much, couldn't they just be, you know, if they ever really got into a good role-playing game, they would see. And I don't know, maybe I'm the one who's missing so much, not being able to make that connection here on a board game in the same way. I did take, I tend to rate my games not based on Board Game Geek's rating criteria whatsoever. Because, to tell you the truth, I'm much more willing to play this than I am to play DAC, right? You know? DAC would probably get a pretty low rating because while I like it and really want to play it, I just won't have the time. And that strikes me as a really dumb set of guidelines to rate my gaming collection by. It may work fine for your average gamer who's not into the longer war games. But even with things that I really like 1830, that I may be more willing to play than this, perhaps, I don't think, there's still that time element that comes into play, and I'll say, man, you know, it's not always going to want to play 1830. What am I always going to want to play? It's things like Bridge, you know, that no matter what, if somebody, I'd almost always be willing to use it. It's going to be light filler games and stuff for that. So, my rating system is based on a combination of how much do I enjoy the game and how much do I respect the game. And in this case, the respect is greater than it is for Talisman, but the enjoyment not necessarily less, but the fact that it's not, that it requires more effort, yet it doesn't provide significantly more for me, kind of reduces that enjoyment and makes it not a clear runaway, yeah, I'll give this a 7. I kind of have this baseline. 6 is the place where a lot of games that I either don't mind playing at all or like but have some disagreements with some aspects of them, which may be, you know, they're totally broken or something, for example. that's about where a lot of those fall into place. 5 is generally the, boy, I just want to ridicule the game. And I don't feel, and it gets worse from there. There's things that are much, much less appreciated by me. This one, however, I can see playing it just kind of lightly, but there's still too much mechanical aspects on it to really justify that. So then, well, I gotta pull out this whole set of effort. And once I do that, the payoff has to be a little bit higher than I'm getting on this. So it's a little painful for me. Talisman wouldn't bother me at all if somebody else did all the setup, for example. If I didn't have to shuffle all those decks and do all that stuff, hey, sure, whatever. I could enjoy this in the same way, by the way. I think with a group of people, I would take a lot more pleasure in this. With a group of people and some alcohol, even more. But there are a lot of games that I would enjoy a good deal with a group of people and some alcohol. And some of them I would enjoy more than this and require less effort. Things like, I don't know, say Bridge, where all I have to do is shuffle a deck of cards. Doesn't mean I wouldn't sometimes want to play this instead of a card game, or instead of fast food franchise or Monopoly or whatever. But it's kind of in that realm, and it's a little bit heavier and a little bit more expensive in terms of my time and effort. But yeah, I can definitely see why some people are really, really into this game. And I think that, I don't know, I'd almost like to understand the getting into the spirit of it, the way that, I can get into the spirit of some role-playing games, for example. I don't know if that happens. I don't know if maybe, trying to play this by candlelight in a dank basement, with an elder spawn behind me would make it any better. No, I just really don't know. And, to some extent I think I'm missing something that I wish I could hook into here. My wife seems to enjoy the hell out of it, but I don't feel like she's scared playing it, right? I mean, I don't feel like there's this, oh my god, we're gonna die, that's really there. It's more, oh my god, we're gonna die, that, kind of the feeling that you get off of, say, watching a cheap horror film, where everything's kind of silly and everything. Not that this is terribly silly, but that I don't feel that tremendous suspension of disbelief. And I don't find myself imagining, picturing what's going on in the rich, real way that I do, say, with an SPQR game. And again, that's just me. My respect for the game has grown. I definitely took more enjoyment out of presenting this because I had an easy story to explain to everyone than maybe I do with some other games, especially something like Silverton that I just recently did. I love Silverton. I think it's a fantastic game, but it doesn't video the way this thing does. This thing was very easy. Oh, look, this happened. Oh, look, this happened. And the these happens, I don't think would translate as well in something like Talisman. So, in a sense, this becomes almost the perfect game to do these video playthroughs for. And it's kind of interesting because someone I noticed, Mythos Gamer, has done, I think, a couple of playthroughs of this game. He's done some other games as well. And if you like the playthrough type feel to things, I would suggest looking into what he's doing as well, because, well, he may be touching some games that I'm not hitting, and he's also hitting them with a slightly different flavor and feel. He has more understanding, I think, of the particular games that he's hitting than I usually do. So that's just kind of, a heads up. Of course, he doesn't have my devastating charm. Anyway, that's it.